Many people ask me, is wheat good or bad? Do I need to become gluten-free? In fact, many patients that I see have already stopped wheat in often a vain effort to help their health condition. It's somewhat popular these days to tell everybody to stop wheat, even though in the 70s, of course, eating whole wheat bread was a sign of being healthy, and whole wheat bread was considered the epitome of good, healthy nutrition. So it shows you how much things have changed. There's a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to wheat, and a kind of a over obsession with avoiding gluten. And of course nowadays we have a billion-dollar gluten-free industry and a lot of marketing supporting the benefits of going gluten-free that is influencing people on a regular basis. Many of the blogs and information that we read about wheat online, and the harm is just written by authors and bloggers and who are either just regurgitating information that they read elsewhere, or just researching themselves, kind of like the blind leading the blind. Very rarely do you see actual practitioners make such a blanket statement like everybody should avoid gluten or everybody should avoid wheat. In fact, there are some authors now who have written books about the true causes of this wheat intolerance, and the research has shown that it's actually the pesticides, not the gluten. And we can see this in many people who travel to Europe, where they have the wheat, the pizza, the breads in Europe, and they have no reaction. But here in the United States, they have a reaction. Of course, we know that here in the United States we have more lax laws about spraying pesticides. In fact, we do what's called double spraying. Spray them once when the wheat plant is small, and then when the berry is ready for harvesting here in the United States, we spray it again right before harvesting to kind of kill any bugs and to prepare the wheat to be harvested by kind of somewhat killing it. And this second spraying of pesticides before harvesting is not allowed in the EU. So I think the real cause of our wheat allergy we have here in North America is due to the pesticides, which I think has been covered up. And of course, most of the research done on wheat that we're reading about, or all these researchers and bloggers are referring to, is not done on whole wheat, sprouted, non-GMO grains. They're generally bread that is bought in their convenience store, or used by the majority of North Americans, and they are testing based on these low quality white breads, or at least a GMO bread, and then of course they're seeing this immune reaction in the system. And we know many of these pesticides are destroying the intestinal lining or mucosa of the actual insect, and that's how they die. And excessive use of it has shown to damage the mucosa of humans, or let's say the excessive exposure to these pesticides in our foods, and thus we start to have a lot of various allergies. So when I'm talking about wheat here, I'm talking about sprouted, organic, stone ground wheat would be even better, and GMO free, of course. And then when we look at this type of quality wheat, we see a lot less people having a reaction. I believe many people are avoiding wheat and gluten completely unnecessarily. Of course, in Ayurveda, if you're a overweight, heavy person, or a kapha prakriti who tends to gain weight or is overweight, then wheat, we know, is a weight gainer. Maybe another reason why we avoid it here in North America, due to our obesity epidemic and our obsession with weight gain. However, there's many people with strong digestive systems, like the Pitta Prakriti, who has maybe some acidity at times, but has a very strong digestion, does very well with wheat, including myself, particularly pita breads, which are very simple, only made with wheat and flour, and no yeast. A lot of times the yeast itself in fluffy breads can bother Vata types who are very sensitive. But those who are underweight and have a good digestion, and thin, or Vata person with good digestion, they also do well on wheat. So I'm putting much more people back on wheat than taking them off. And those people who say they have a wheat allergy, most of the time they don't have a wheat allergy. They have a food intolerance and is starting to have a reaction over an allergic reaction due to long-term use of poor quality wheat. So we must be clear here and not throw the baby out with the bathwater and say all grains are bad. And I know much has been said about that, that all grains are bad, and it's gone so far that people believe all carbohydrates are bad. So this is a overstatement. We could call it even a fad approach to healthcare, to just tell everybody that all grains are bad. There is very good quality grains, and many people can benefit from them, particularly people who are underweight with good digestion, and people who have very strong and robust digestion without a weight problem do very well on whole wheat, sprouted, non-GMO, organic grains. Now, if you're having a reaction to a wheat, I generally ask, what is that reaction? Very few people actually are celiac. If you have celiac, you're going to have a rash, hives, pain, cramping, extreme bloating, and probably had it even since childhood. If you're just having a little bloating and you feel a little heavy, then more than likely you just have poor digestion. So eliminating foods, as I've said in many videos, eliminating dairy, eliminating wheat, eliminating things isn't a treatment. You're just kind of avoiding the problem. And this is often the case with wheat. Wheat, or gluten, we could say, is heavy and hard to digest. So you have to have a good digestive capacity. And most people are grazing, snacking, eating too much at night, and their digestive system has degenerated, so they can no longer have the wheat which they ate during their childhood. So just eliminating isn't a cure. What we want to do is address the underlying causes of this food reaction or intolerance, and that is by improving the digestion. Maybe for a short term we put people on easier to digest grains like rice, which is much easier to digest than wheat, and then we give them herbs after the meal, post-digestive herbs and teas, and get rid of the snacking, the eating late at night, and the snacking on nuts and crackers and cookies, which degenerates the digestion. And then the digestion becomes robust, the person becomes more hungry, and then they're back to eating wheat with the rest of the human population. And I'm doing this on a regular basis, so this is not a theory, but this is what's taking place in my private practice. So if you feel heavy or sluggish after having wheat in particular, then you need to improve your digestion in most cases. I doubt this is a true food allergy. Now, once, of course, the intestinal lining has been damaged through inflammation or excessive intake of non-organic foods, particularly grains, with, as we know, are having a lot of pesticides used on them, then it could take some while for your GI tract to heal until you'll be able to resume having hard to digest foods. But again, we want to treat and cure this condition of inflammation and the immune system overreacting, then just avoid the food. So I hope that helped you to better understand that wheat is not bad. It's not suitable for some people, particularly those who are overweight and have poor digestion, but good organic sprouted wheat, particularly pita bread or flat breads without the yeast, or sourdough breads, which are using a natural type of yeast, are very easy to digest and more healthy for you. Particularly if they're not dry. If they're dry, they're more difficult to digest. If they're fresh, they're easier to digest. If they're warmed up with oil, they're also easier to digest. Okay, thank you very much. I hope this made this subject more clear for you.